respond to them. But the problem with that is nobody else is getting the benefit of hearing what you're going to be discussing in that question. So if you do have a question, I've created a tab at the top of the WordPress site that says feedback. Excuse me. And I want you to go into that, and I want you to ask your question there. So all of these assignments are going to be in the form of blog postings. So the way that you're going to respond to these assignments is you're just going to simply comment on the blog posting. It's pretty straightforward. So that's the basic format of that. Okay, yeah, so on Thursday, your first assignment is going to be to do a video introduction. Because, once again, I think we learn better when we know a little bit about each other. You know, when Chelsea posts a certain comment, if you know a little bit about Chelsea, I think that will help you add some context to the situation and have a deeper understanding of what it is that she's trying to get at. So I want us to sort of try to create a classroom community. And unfortunately, since we're not meeting in person, the way that we're going to have to do that is I want us to do introductions. And ideally, I want you guys to do just what I'm doing now. I think most people have a webcam available, so I want you to do a short. It doesn't have to be long, a minute, something like that, talking about who you are, where you're from, what year you are at Virginia Tech, what your field of study is, why you're taking this class, and what you'd like to get out of this class, and anything else that you want to say. So, but I would say 1 to 2 minutes is all that needs. So do that video, and then you can post it to YouTube for free. It's no problem. And then I want you to go into, on the website on Thursday, I'll post the assignment. Assignment 2 will be to post your video. So all you'll have to do is respond to my blog entry with a comment and say, hi, this is Jeremy, and here is my introduction. Here's a link to my introduction on YouTube, and then we can take it from there. If you don't have a webcam, it's okay. If you want to write something up, you can send it to me, and then send me the link to a picture. You could upload a picture to Flickr or something like that, and then just send me the link to that, and I'll post that. Okay. So learning objectives. Pretty straightforward. The learning objectives for this course are, we're going to be looking at the 2 prominent ethical theories in Western philosophy in the last 200 years. One is called categorical ethics, which means that some things it's just wrong to lie no matter what, or it's just wrong to kill no matter. Basically, it's saying that there are some things that the context does not matter; they're wrong. So we're going to talk about that and see if that's a possibility. The most famous proponent of that is Immanuel Kant. He's sort of the father of categorical ethics, although it does go back a long way. It has a long storied tradition. Some of the people that you'll run into today who are really firm human rights activists or advocates are proponents of the categorical ethical theory. The other really famous ethical theory we're going to be looking at is consequentialism, which basically says that the consequences of the action are what determine whether that action is right or wrong. So in the case of, killing 1 to save 5, those are, the consequences of 1 person dying are better than the consequences of 5 people dying. And obviously both of these theories are much more complicated than that, but that's the general idea. So I want us to have a good understanding of those things. We're going to talk about moral relativism as well. And moral relativism, obviously, if you're not, you don't believe in categorical ethics, that some things are just wrong universally. A lot of people argue that whether something is right or wrong depends upon the culture that you were raised in. For example, one of the things that when I sent you the message, there are some Eskimo cultures that practice infanticide, and to us, in the Western world, that seems like an abomination, killing our babies. But you're going to find that the Eskimos actually had what may be a reasonable explanation for why they do that. Something else I want to do is I want to give you guys, so we're going to, spend the first, several weeks talking about stuff as a course. But then for the last couple of weeks of the course, I'm going to give you guys an option. You're going to have to choose between two subfields within global ethics. One will be environmental ethics, looking at the ethics concerning the environment, sustainability, those types of questions. Do we have an obligation to animals? Do we have an obligation to the environment itself? And if so, what is that obligation grounded in? Okay? And the second thing you're going to have the choice to look at is something called just war theory, which basically is trying to determine, is war always wrong, or can war be justified? So those will be your two options, and I have some readings chosen that you can look at for that particular thing. Then once you let me know which group you're going to be in, I'll divide you up into groups. You guys will do readings in groups, and then you'll do your discussions in groups as well. So maybe what I should do is explain this whole thing about why is the course called Global Ethics. I guess that's a good place to start. The question is this. And it goes back to this question of moral universalism or moral relativism. Are there moral principles that can apply to every human being on the planet? Can we in the United States tell somebody in Africa that you shouldn't murder? It's wrong to murder 2,000, 500,000, a million people in your particular country. Can we say that? And if we can say that, what is that based on? Is that because there are certain principles that are applied to human beings across the board? And then the question becomes, if there are certain principles, what are those principles grounded in? Are they grounded in? They can't be grounded in religion, right? Because people across the world have many different religions, and everybody's going to argue that their religion is correct. So if you have different religions, it's hard to see that religion could be the basis of these ethical theories that that should dictate what we do across the globe. And one of the suggestions that one of the philosophers makes, Immanuel Kant, is that what makes us special as human beings and what allows us to say things to other human beings is that we're rational. We're rational beings. And our rationality makes us special. Therefore, anybody who has rationality is deserving of certain human rights. Okay? But then that brings up other questions too, right? So what do we say about babies? Babies are not rational, right? I mean, they have the possibility of being rational, but they're not. And what about people who have been in an accident, something terrible has happened to them, and they've gone into a vegetative state? Do they still have rights? I don't know. It's a good question. But this is the struggle that we're going to have throughout the course. I suspect, a lot of people are going to come into this course with the mindset that, yeah, sure, of course, we can tell Hitler that the genocide was wrong, right? We can tell him that the Holocaust was wrong. We're going to come in and we're going to say, okay, there are firm moral principles. But then as we go through the course, these firm moral principles that we hold to are going to be challenged. And we're going to come to a point where we're going to say, well, maybe morality is just culturally, constructed. Maybe it's socially constructed and it's relative to each culture. But then we're going to be left in a unique position. If we're left in that position where we can find that we say, yeah, morality is culturally relative, then we're left in the position where we can't say that the Holocaust was wrong. And that's not a position that many people want to be in. So these are the kind of issues that we're going to be struggling with throughout the course. Okay, so this is a philosophy course. So, and I think it's most people's introductory philosophy course. And if you haven't taken a philosophy course before, philosophy is a completely different animal. Reading philosophy is quite different than reading history, reading literature, science, whatever. Philosophy is all about logic and arguments. That's essentially what it comes down to. So when you're reading philosophy, you're reading to identify arguments and you're trying to determine whether those arguments are valid or sound or not. And that's what you're going to be looking at. You're going to have to identify things like premises and conclusions and assumptions and fallacies and things like that in people's reasoning.